where were they consuming their music over these last 2 years? It hasn't been in Clubland. It's been through podcasts and playlists and et cetera, lots of different places.
Yeah, and a feature that InFlight added, I think about a year ago, which we've been pushing on for years, is to have the pre-save function for Spotify and Apple. So we've been really aggressively going after InFlight, and then also with the labels, make sure when you have a campaign, give us the pre-saves links so we can include them in the InFlight campaign. And we're seeing now, recently we had a track, we had over 100 pre-saves. And those are all kinds of DJs. That might be like an Oliver Heldens that pre-saves it straight away to his playlist. So the moment the record comes out, it's in his playlist. He has, I think, maybe 100, 200,000 listeners on his playlist. So you can suddenly start making an impact without that the label, the artist has to invest in a special PR company servicing Spotify playlists. So it's just kind of looking at all different ways of kind of how can you push the record forward through one service, basically.
So if I understood you right, if you see that the record is doing well in some territory, then you might suggest that that the artist is also promoted in other territories, or that you give it to other radio stations. If you see that the results are sufficient, how do you work further?
So we have it kind of depends. So the beautiful thing, for instance, with InFlight is a part that our reporting is obviously separate out in territories for each DJs, and if they're from radio, you also get a heat map. So you can actually see very quickly as a label, okay, where are we getting the most responses from? Besides it, you have 1001 track lists. I don't know if you're aware of that. That's a platform we've been heavily focusing on that basically records where people are playing the records. So if, for instance, a Tiesto plays it in his set at EDC, the track list will be up there. If a smaller DJ has a weekly show on maybe locally in Italy, also puts the show on there, you can actually get a very good overview where the record is actually being played. Back in the day, you would have club charts where someone decides what goes in the club chart, but had no link to what's happening in reality. This is actually real data. We're all about real data where you can actually see, okay, who is playing my records? On 1001 tracklist, they have a weekly chart, the most played records. So we're always aiming to try to get in those charts by getting as many plays from DJs, because feedback is great. It gives you an indication if a DJ like it. But ultimately, the most valuable thing is, are they actually playing it in their sets? So that's kind of what we've always goes after.
It's the classic, isn't it? Downloaded for Richie Horton. It's there.
Yeah.
His guy, there's some guy collecting all the tracks. We don't know whether he's actually ended up playing it. So the only way to see is that track being played? Is it transferring into the masses? So, yeah, that sort of data is possibly more important, I think, than the responses sometimes.
Yeah, and coming back to your question, so what we try to do is, by offering this kind of widespread, is kind of do the first step for the label. So, look, we have a sufficient database for instance, DJs in Germany or France. We won't have everyone, but it's a good stepping stone that if you see, okay, it's bubbling, it's getting played on Sunshine Live here or Energy, for them to maybe say okay, well, maybe we need to get a local plugger from Germany, not us, that can take the record further onto radio into daytime. That's obviously not something we do, but we do that initial stepping stone to then see for a label, okay, well, where is it worth actually investing in the record further?
Okay. Pat, as you already told us, you are mostly promoting long players, albums, and this is completely different from the single business, single track business. What is your aim? Of course, selling records, sure. But I think such a big label or such a famous label is also very interested in developing the artist. Is this still important, or has this changed through the years?
Absolutely. But it's always a bit like SC Freiburg, for example, where you have talents, they go big, and then you have to sell them. For example, Sampa the Great now moved to Warner. That was Australian living, but from Zambia, I think she comes from. Rapper, and she has gone through the roof with her last album, and now she's releasing with Denzel Curry on Warner. And that's the thing, we have mostly to let our talents go away, and that's very sad. But on the other hand, we also can like sign floating points from one point to another, and then we feel like FC Bayern, for example, you know, to stay in the football part. But our aim mostly is like because I mean, our catalog numbers are Zen, you know, so it's about like having a good ambience within the team, with the artists and stuff. Pressure is also not very hard, you know, like there are some bigger priorities where like there's a lot of pressure, especially from management, of course, and where like the aim is like to go big, to make a top 10 and stuff like that. Yeah, that's like of course possible and doable, but my aim personally as a promoter is like to get the artist there where he or she belongs and where he or she gets heard. So like in the right magazines, in the right blogs, in the right radio stations, and and the right playlists too, and get listened to by engaged people that really care, and not like, it's not really worthy for me to have like a smaller artist that we're trying to build up in a huge playlist where he or she is like in for a week and then out again and forgotten and gone with the wind, you know? It's like rather to really build up a relationship between consumer and artist / label. That's the aim, more or less.
Yeah, so I put some questions, but now I'd like to tell you and you something about the Faze Magazine. We are existing now for 10 years, and of course, most of our stories we have in the magazine, in the print magazine, deal with some records. Yeah, of course, we have some artists who want to put themselves as a DJ or as a producer in the focus, but most of the stories are definitely related to releases, and then we have different ways to promote a release. We have to do an interview in our print magazine, which of course is mirrored online and through social media. We have some Spotify playlists, we do have a radio show, and we do have events we are organizing and promoting. So I think for us it's very important to have the whole mix so that we can offer the artist everything he wants. I think this is kind of similar to what you said, that you offer all the relevant playlists and DJs and tastemakers from one button, yeah, you can push. So of course it's a bit different because we have a print magazine or show, but from the idea, it's always easier for an artist to have one person you are talking to. So that makes it easier for the management and for the promoter and for the radio guy if you have one person you are talking to. Yeah. Maybe to give the audience a short impression of who you work with. Could you tell us some names?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixture of names. Funny enough, one of the DJs producers that's also here is Gus. We do everything for him, but also for his label Sink or Swim. And Sink or Swim has artists on it like Lucati, Jay Wara, John Summit, kind of on that angle. We work with more commercial labels like Spinning. And for Spinning we do, for instance, records for David Guetta or Tiesto. We've also done stuff for like Butch. Who else we doing? I mean, it's completely across the board, all kinds of genres, from the underground to the more mainstream, really. Yeah.
If I am an artist and I want to get my record promoted, then I will send it to you, and then you give me an honest impression of if it's possible, if it makes sense, or how do you proceed?
I mean, you know, we're getting requests on a daily basis from either individuals or from labels. I'll listen to the record and I'll say if it's something I think we can work, and if it's something we can work, then I'll tell you kind of how we would approach the record to push it. That's basically it, and then we'll tell them what the price is, and then whether they want to go along with it or not. But it's always from that standpoint. With promotion, especially what we do, our database is key. And both our backgrounds are DJs. So we look at everything from being on the receiving end, not like the one that's pushing stuff down your throat. It's like, what's it like to be a DJ and receiving promos? I'm still, as a DJ, on a lot of mailing lists. and I get stuff sent that's completely not relevant to me. So it's very key from working as a promo company. Okay, is this a record we really can work? If not, I might sometimes even say, why don't you go to this promo company? They do much more in that sound. You get much better results. I'm quite open about that because we rather make sure, because everything we push out is not about just to take the money. It's like we're putting our own reputation on the line as well, not just for the artists. We all want to win here. So I think that's the main standpoint. So if a record doesn't work, we'll say that. Sometimes I'll even go back and give feedback. Yeah, this edit is great, but what about if you do this, or extend this bit, take the vocal out here, or why don't you get a remix done? We might give some names of remixes that we know works really well with our database. Yeah, it's trying to give constructive feedback as well and trying to work together. And sometimes they'll use it, sometimes they say, well, we don't do it, especially when they tell you on the Thursday, when the record comes out on Friday, like, hey, can you push this out? I'm like, well, okay, why didn't you send it to me 3 weeks ago? And I could have given you some feedback and we could have helped you. But that's the music industry. Sometimes it's all a little bit last minute. But yeah, we're trying to see it as a collaboration and trying to work together with the artist or the label to make the record work. And if we can't, we'll be really honest about it as well.
Pat, I think for you and for your work, it is important that you work together with the artist. Because if you are doing some interview dates and the artist is not willing, or no, how do you cope with that? Are there some stories you can tell us which were quite weird or so?
Weird, not necessarily, but recently, like 3 weeks ago or something, we had a meeting with an artist directly, which is like rather rare because meanwhile lots of times the managements come between, which is mostly unfortunately annoying. But like this artist lives in Berlin for many years already and recently signed him for a release on Brain Feeder. I won't tell the name, of course, yet. And however, that was nice because he came up to our office and we had just like friendly coffee, friendly chat, like what you want to do, where you want to get and stuff like that. What are your aims and what's going to be the singles? Are you ready to do promo? Like, are you ready to do it full on and not like one interview a week or something like that? All these little details are really important for a whole campaign. We just could speak, and that was nice. But I can tell you one weird thing though. I used to work for Domino Records before, where like Arctic Monkeys and Franz Ferdinand, and also like the famous psychedelic rock band Spiritualized used to be. And in labels, it's like a thing. If you think that it's like gonna hit hard, you do an interview CD before, record a own generic interview with the artist, where he or she chooses the answers and also the questions, just like to promote yourself the best way. And with the singer of Spiritualized, while doing that, he fell asleep. That was very, very funny, because he was trying to sell himself and that didn't work out, so.
got bored of his own questions.
Yeah. So, yeah, so much for weirdness.
Yeah. So much for weirdness. So maybe to give you a short impression of how the ways of promotion have been changed. In the earlier days, we've had physical products. Yeah, we had vinyls, we had CDs.
You sound like an old man.
Yes, yeah. I'm sounding like an old man. Yeah, that was way. That was in.
Is that something you put on a thing with it?
Yeah, that was in the old century. Yeah. And now we can push one button and 5,500 DJs, tastemakers, radio stations get the record. This is normally. This is normal for us today, but it sounds like future if we are going 10 years back. Yeah, so this is the way that we can promote artists and records today. So this is, I think, very relevant to know how you work. Yeah,
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, sure, this is a good thing. Yeah,
it has its pluses and minuses. I think that being able, more people be able to get the music is great, but also there's more music. We've definitely seen over the last 2 years the quantity of music coming out is greater. And I think this is great about Ninja Tunes, is that a lot of labels are just, it's a lot of spaghetti throwing at the wall. And there's...
Yeah, and that's why it's as important than ever to make sure that you send relevant music to people, because if people get bombarded, they turn off very quickly. So the beauty is of now, and I guess that's also the future of promo, is like trying to find all the touch points of how to get to people, or trying to figure out how people are consuming music and trying to reach them. And for us, it's obviously for DJs, but obviously DJs are operating in different ways as well now, not just in clubs, but doing stuff online, in the metaverse, wherever, you know. And for us, it's about going after those people and making sure they get our music. Back in the day, I guess it was very more concentrated. I remember my work placement I did in 2002 at BMG. I had to physically put 1,200 promos in envelopes and send them out each week. Those were the days.
I don't miss that.
Don't miss that. But
that was real work.
That was real. That was real work. But it was very targeted because there was a very small pool of DJs that were relevant, and also because of that, you know, we would send maybe some tastemakers, like send them to abroad, but most would be in the UK. Whereas now, obviously, you can just hit anywhere in the world, get the music out. So that's obviously, yeah, much better.
That's the thing we were speaking about before. Actually, was different markets opening up now, and this is great. The ability that dance music is international. It's not just where you are. So a record can be from a US artist and blow up in a different territory. And if you don't try it internationally, you don't know. So if you just focus on your one territory, the record may not move.
And then it's done.
And then it's done.
Yeah.
But then you come back, it blows up in a different territory, you come back, circle back 8 months later, and the territory's all interested in the record.
But, I mean, that's always like when you look at the UK and the US, I mean, those are the most arrogant countries in the world when it comes to music, right? It's historically always been like in the UK, we're the most important country in Europe for music, and the US for the world. And what you see now is like, well, that's not the case at all. You know, you see music blowing up like in South America, and that's becoming the main sound worldwide, because what people kind of forget, that especially in the UK and the US, is that there's a whole world where English is not the first language and people are actually open to music in other languages. And it's the same what you see with dance music. There's like, it used to be, you know, it was always the DJs from the UK to the US. Now it's like you can have someone from, you know, Uzbekistan, like look at Iman Bek, he's not from there, but from that region. You know, he blows up with a massive remix of Roses, and suddenly he's like a huge artist. 10 years ago, no one would even listen to him. He couldn't even get his music out. So it's kind of in a democratic way. It's more, yeah, everyone has a chance now. You know,
It's opened the market up,
yeah,
which is nice. It's nice to see that it can come.
Kraftwerk once said, "Everybody is making music, and my stupid little brother too." So this is. It has much truth, because everybody nowadays is able to do a record with Ableton in his home, producing studio, maybe in the bedroom, and everybody is able to get it promoted if he just pays, I don't know what. Yeah.
Still got to be good though.
Yeah.
There's still got to be a barrier to entry. I feel
it has good sides and bad sides, of course, as always. No? It's black and white. Yeah. So I think that. This is the way how we are working today, how we have to cope. I can remember, just to give you an impression of how old I am. No? The first time I've been in Miami at the Winter Music Conference, it was in '95. It was in the Hotel Fontainebleau, and around the pool, everybody was walking around. The Masters at Work, Armand van Helden, everybody was there. Daft Punk were there, and they were giving away white labels. Yeah. And you should know that the summer hits were just given away at this pool.
It was decided there, basically, yeah.
It was very, very small group of people who were the deciders. And of course it was cool for us to be there, but that was not democratic, as just said. Ne? So nowadays it's more democratic, and people from other countries have more chances to get heard. So this is a very good
But at the same
aspect.
time, those DJs would have exclusive records that they would play that made their sets maybe a bit more interesting. I think when Beatport came online, it was interesting to see the amount of explosion of the amount of DJs. I think when you was vinyl, and I like vinyl, you had to go out and you had to hunt. You had to find a record. You had to decide, and you would listen to records in a record store, and you would play both sides. You would play all of it, and you wouldn't look at necessarily. You would look at some of the labels and some of the artists, but you would just listen to it. And if you decided you liked that record, you would then go and play it.
And you would pay 20 euros for it, so you make sure you buy the good record.
Yeah. But you would be a bit more discerning about what you bought, and I think that was a good thing. And then
music had more value.
Music had more value, but I think as a DJ, you weren't just. This is going slightly off topic, but I think you weren't just about you're about your record collection as well as your mixing ability. So you could be a DJ that had certain records that nobody else had. So you played them, and that was a good thing. I think there was some
But it's still,
advantage.
these days, we are working together with DJ DE in Germany, which is the biggest record online service marketplace. Not a marketplace, a shop it is. And they have many labels who are only release vinyl only releases with 300 copies or so. Maybe, or mainly they are from Romania, to say, oh, there are very many from Romania. And of course, this is also a way to promote the record in a very special way, because they don't want to get played in each and every club. They are very focused on their target group, but yeah, there are many ways to promote a record. Are there questions in the audience? Yes. Yeah.
So definitely, I totally agree. So the value of the individual tracks definitely changed. When I started playing music, like DJing 13 years ago, I read a book. Its name was How to DJ Right. And on page 22 or something, there was a sentence of Carl Cox where he said when he enters a record store, he said he is searching for killers and no fillers. Actually, so that was always my cue, so definitely agree with that. Regarding, I would be interested in what are your criteria to put anything about like a newcomer artist in your magazine? Because yeah, I created a video, I would say well produced on the old Airplateau of Munich. And there was like, there used to be like the beginning of the techno scene in the early 90s. So the story around it, even if I'm pretty young therefore, I wasn't a part of those parties, but anyways, the story was actually good and pretty well fitting, I would say. And then I sent this video to FAZEmag, and never got like a response.
This can happen sometimes, yeah.
That's why I was like interested in what needs to happen.
But a video is very difficult for us to work with. Yeah. I am honestly in this panel, so I'm not telling you bullshit. The only reason why we are still existing after 10 years is that we have to find corporations. That you did not get an answer is not professional at all, and I apologize for it. Yeah, no, that's not good. But of course, we get, I think, 5 to 10 requests each day for quite unknown artists or known artists who want to get featured. Yeah, and we say, okay, you want to live, we want to live. Yeah, so I can give you some packages, yeah. So you get some coverage, you get media coverage, yeah. You get some art, some adverts, and therefore we get some money, yeah. So this is normally the way how we work. Ne? It's not completely different to how you are working, yeah. So we all have to make our living out of it, yeah. And the print magazine got more expensive the last years because the prices for paper increased. So it's not the easiest way to make money. Yeah? So of course we need to find corporations with artists. It is, but it's not good. I must repeat it, that you did not get an answer. Yeah, that's not okay. But a video is normally not the right way to promote a record through us, or yeah, it's very difficult for us.
I obviously didn't only send over a link, so I told the story all around it, and I said, yeah, I'm right before releasing my first track and so on. So actually, that's why I
Normally, you get an answer. I'm sorry for that.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, okay. So in general, maybe I do a copy paste.
You can tell him afterwards again personally, and he will let you know what he can do.
Yeah. More people who want to shout at me. So, yeah, we got 40 minutes. Should we say something more, or should we go for a drink or so? What's your opinion, Pat?
Yeah, if there's nobody else interested in what we have to say, we may as well have a drink, I guess, right?
What about the other guys in the back? Should we stop, or should we tell some stories of an old man?
Well, I'll tell you one fun story, kind of related to this setup. I once went to this panel where there was this world-famous DJ sitting on the couch talking about his story. And it was someone who used often, let's say, engineers to help make his music. And there was someone sitting in the audience, and he stood up. He's like, "Yeah, I got a question." It's like, "Okay, yeah, yeah. Hi, I'm from so-and-so studios. I'm a work intern, and I want to ask why my boss used to help you make your records, 10 years ago. Why don't you use him anymore?" And yeah, you could just see the DJ sitting there like, yeah, kind of moved on, but thank you very much. Thank you, yeah, anyway. Oh, question, yes.
My question is, from your work, from your everyday work, do you have some special moments of success stories that happened through your work? For example, small artists became a really big push.
Yeah. So, we got an artist that we're still working with. It's called Rafa FL, and he did a track called La Suerte on Another Rhythm. And it was an artist that, I think he's from the US, not very big, didn't really have a name. We started pushing that record, started to build momentum. We first got a couple of Tastemaker plays, then we got Pete Tong on it on Radio 1, Danny Howard, and the record just kind of kept building, then also on Spotify, and it ended up being signed to Sony on the back of it. So I think that's kind of a good example. I mean, for us it's a real success. If we can have an artist that no one knows, but it's generally a good record, and we can get it to a point where it either blows up or a major picks it up. That's, I think, the best thing to do. Because, look, if you have a Tiesto or something like that, and it's not going to be that hard, everyone already knows what he's about, and those DJs will support him anyway. But yeah, especially with those up-and-coming artists, if we can really move the needle, as they say, yeah.
We've done white label bootlegs,
Yeah.
for a DJ that's putting out a track that's uncleared, unsampled, and we've put it out. We've got it to Tastemakers. The Tastemakers have played it. The record label and the majors come along and said, we'll sign the record and we'll clear it for them. And they did the whole thing for them, just off the back of us doing a very, very small push, just Tastemakers. And the Tastemakers played it, and therefore that record then went.
Yeah, and it was actually us putting that strategy together. As someone came with a white label and we're like, well, we don't like to push bootlegs. But I said, there's something in here, right? What we'll do is we'll just send it to 20 DJs, see if anyone picks it up, and just leave it there and see if there's interest. And it was literally, I think, within 2 weeks, we had like Fatboy Slim on it. We had, I think, Groove Armada, a couple of other guys on it. And suddenly the label started inquiring. Because we obviously know a lot of labels. So they see this record played like, hey,
Who is this?
Who is this? Is
What
it
is this
still
record?
available?
Yeah.
And then we got the deal for them, and yeah.
I mean, it's got to be at the start. Still got to be a good record, And we do turn down a lot of records, but that is our prerogative, and it's our reputation on the table. So we try to make sure that what we do push out is good music, and that we think it will fit our database. But it doesn't matter where it comes from, who it is, the size of the record. We'll listen, and if we think it's got an audience, we'll push it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, kind of say, it all starts with music. When PR companies tell you that they can make wonders, then it's just bullshit. If the music isn't good, we can try as hard as we can. We might get some results, but the record will never fly. If it's a big artist, half the job is already done as a PR company. Is it someone new? Is it a good record? It might take a long time, and not all records will make it, but if the music is good, it will shine through. It might not be now, might be a year later. And that's what you see, I think, on Spotify as well. You sometimes see records that come out, and it's only 2 years later. I think like the Shouse record is a good example. It took, I think, a year or two to suddenly blow up. And it just shows that if the record is out there, and that's all that we can do. Make sure that all the relevant people have it, and then the world, then the record just kind of has to hopefully start doing its thing. But
Yeah, because quite often, I mean, you were talking about lifespan of a record, and for us, quite often the lifespan is short. But if there is a record out there that is earlier in its life cycle, we'll stay with the record and keep going until it gets to its final point. But if it's a record that's already been signed, it's gone through a lot of process from the record label already, and they're coming to us a week before release, they've already got a lot of things in place, they're all ready to go, so our job is just to push the button as hard as we can, get it going, and then they take over if they want to take it on to the next level. But the lifespan of a record can be 8 months to a year, even longer, so it's a variety.
Yeah, it's even the record at the moment that's the #1 most Shazam record in Germany is Own Boss, Move Your Body. And that's a record that we started for musical freedom back, I think, in September last year. And now it's been picked up, I think, in Germany by Warner. But that record is, so that's already like 6 months it's taken to get to the stage that the majors were getting involved to try to push it to the next level, so.
Good music will always succeed.
Exactly.
We hope.
Yeah.
We hope. Yeah, I think we are nearly finished. Maybe you can get yourself a drink as well. Thank you very much.
I've got one more question.
One more question?
Yeah.
We have time, right?
Yeah, sure, we have time.
So, just practically speaking, I am about to do a sabbatical from my normal job next year in February, March, around that. And as I said, now I have this video, so I produce some content actually. I released in March, I released my first track. It's not the best one, but it's groovy, I would say. So and the next one is, I would say, way better. I mean, to learn and so on.
Hope so.
Sorry?
Hope so.
Yeah. Now is the question actually, what exactly could you now do for me in order to use that sabbatical actually to use the content that I have produced now, actually to somehow also place me somewhere that I could play like a little tour somewhere in Asia, or I don't know. That is actually my ideas. So is it also something that you do?
No. No.
You're placing records.
We decided as a company to be quite particular about what we do, and we want to do it really well. So rather than trying to spread ourselves, I think that's more of a manager's role. And we have connections with managers, but there needs to be, a manager's a tough thing because they want to see some sort of return, and they're taking a percentage. So there's got to be something there for them.
I think my biggest tip is be proactive yourself. Like the reason why we started this company is because over the years, as DJs ourselves, we've been building our database, finding out who the DJs was to send it to, and then on the back of it, we started a company. You got to be realistic with it as well. It's the same, I think, if you go like to Faze Magazine straight away, maybe look first at some blogs that are maybe not as big, but have a strong following and reach out to those. The same with DJs. Don't go straight to the biggest DJs. Go to maybe the up-and-coming DJs that are willing to receive music and just reach out to them on Instagram or wherever.
It's the same as Ninja Tunes, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're not going to necessarily look at you straight off the bat. They'll look at what your track record is of where the labels that you've already pre-released on, and they'll want to see a train of events happening so that you're building through the right grower labels. And then they go, hey, look, that he's released on X, X, and X, and those are really cool, nice labels. We feel that he's potential, and now we can actually invest some money in him. But they're not going to do that.
Out of the bat.
I'm not going to talk for you.
But you're absolutely right.
you
I
need to
haven't
build
seen
a
an artist
story.
in a while that we have like started from scratch. That's true. Like even like super outlandish IDM producers like Igloo Ghost or something that we had on Brainfeeder. He already had like his own label as a 17-year-old or something. That's a completely different story also, but like signing someone like from scratch, from zero, we don't do that anymore, unfortunately.
You need to kind of build your own story, even if it's really small, but there needs to be something happening before other people are gonna get involved.
I like the idea of the history of techno. I mean, is that kind of what the video was? Is that what you're saying? You were saying it was looking back at the video that you've done?
Yeah, I mean, it is at that former, it's like the last piece of the former Munich airport, actually. So this tower is actually still there. And I had the chance to play a set up there.
Ah, okay.
Like
Okay.
actually, so with the drone and stuff.
Gotcha.
Like, yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. That's a kind of original approach to some marketing, and I think that, you know.
But that's the thing. There must be blogs out there that would put that up, and that's the thing. The good things about blogs is they need content daily. So again, maybe you can start with some of the smaller ones. If some of them pick up, then you get a couple of those on board. Then you can go to a bigger one and say, hey, look, these guys have already posted up. Are you interested? And then kind of build a story that way.
It's no different to what we do. Is when we send a record out and we try and get some early support on the record, we'll then shout about that early support to the next set of DJs, and we have to, because there's
no story, so we
no
need to build it.
You know, if it's their first release or second release, we need to get something. You can't just say, hey, he started playing violin at 11, and great, okay, brilliant. He played violin at 11, but the moment you put in it that a major tastemaker is supporting the record already, then you've already done half the battle. So, so it's.
But you could find the right label for the track that is not released yet that I have.
We don't find the label because we work with labels, and yes, if the record is something really special, then what happens is it tends to be the labels are watching us rather than us necessarily promoting to the label, so to speak. So they'll say, what is this record that you're pushing? They all know what we're pushing, so they might see it and go, that's a nice record.
Yeah.
I have to place it first somewhere. I have to release it.
Well, you don't have to, but what you can do is first. Again, I mean, obviously, you don't know what the track is, but if it's a record that can be played by DJs, first send it to some DJs, get some feedback of them, get them to play it. And even if you have a small group of DJs playing it, then you can actually go to a label. Don't go straight away to the biggest label. Start with a smaller label that is more likely to pick it up, but it's the right sound and the kind of the right look. And then say, hey, these guys are already on it. Is this something for your label? Because then, if you have no profile yet, the label has to have something to go by.
And they're gonna listen to your record more than the other guy who's done nothing. I mean, the worst thing.
But maybe I have something for you. We are also working together with Submit Hub. Do you know Submit Hub?
Submit Hub, yeah.
With Jason. You can have a magazine here, and then you can check it. Submit Hub is an open promotion platform where you can promote your record, or it has not to be released yet. It costs not that much. I don't know exactly what it is.
It's a couple of credits. So I think
Yeah.
$2 or something per.
So it's
whoever you send it to.
It's really cheap, and you can decide who is able to listen to it, and you definitely get a remark, an answer, definitely. And if the answer is really good, maybe some label is checking it and saying, "Oh, this is an interesting record. It gets good." Feedback, so maybe we will pull it down. But you should never tell everybody that you are not completely confident with your record. Yeah, you should never say that's not my best. That's not so smart.
It still needs to be mastered. I haven't got the vocal yet.
Yeah, so.
But I guess you would like. But
yeah.
I can show it to you if you want. That it's actually about the next one because it's another.
But the Submit Hub, what you say, is actually a very good example, because Submit Hub can use for different things. You can use it to get stuff to Spotify playlists, to blogs, to labels, to SoundCloud, to YouTube channels. So what you can actually do there is start your story. You get the record out maybe, or the video, to a couple of the YouTube channels, see if they pick it up. Then on the back of that, go to a couple of blogs, see if they pick it up. When you got a couple of those involved, then you might send it to the labels. Hey, these people have already picked it up. Is this something for your label? And then, exactly. And then you can come to us. It's just like, yeah.
As Patrick goes back to when we started as DJs, and we found that we were doing a lot of the work ourselves. Even when we were signing to major labels, we were still putting a lot of time into self-promotion. And
it's 100%. I mean, labels will do so much for you, and they might come to us to do it for them. But from our experience, pushing it yourself, you're the one. No one's going to care as much about your product as you are. The label will do as much as they can, but they got other records they need to push as well. The same as us as promo company, got other records to work as well, but no one's going to push it as hard as you.
They'll have a budget.
Yeah, and a lot of artists, because ultimately, if you send to a DJ, for example, they're an artist themselves as well, and it's all about relationship building. It's if you have relationships or build up relationships with some other artists, they're probably going to pick it up much quicker from you than maybe from us.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of artists, we have quite a few artists that go to different labels, they're signing on different labels, but they quite often request that we do the promotion. because they know that we work for them. So, they build up a relationship with the promotion companies and go, I feel that they do a better job, they get to the right team or the DJs that you want.
And especially on a single basis. Obviously, like with Pat, when you do an album, like he's working on it for a year, they're going to be completely invested in it. But if you're a label and you do one single and then you go to another label, like, well, if I push it really hard, he goes somewhere else and I don't make any money of it on the next single. So, that's where we come into play, I guess, to that degree. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Nice. Welcome.
So.
Sven really wants his drink now.
No, I'm not pushing it. I'm not pushing it. I've got all the time in the world, exactly 5 minutes. Yeah, so. Now, it was a pleasure to have you here. Yeah. It was a pleasure to have you here, Alistair, Patrick, and Pat, and not Ninja Tune, as he is,
Mr. Ninja
as he
Tune,
is mentioned there. Yeah. His name is Pat. Pat is his name. Yeah. So, have a nice day. Enjoy the Berlin Dance Music event. Maybe we see each other this night at some of the venues. And enjoy yourself. Take care.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks for coming.